Actually, we're going to try this one. I wasn't going to, but I think if we try a small one, it could be possible, like for a mug. That's why I was thinking make a mug, straight-sided mug, and then I'll show you how to do this one. And this part needs to be flat, and for my taste, I like the way the edge of this one is, how it comes out here. Mm-hmm. It's not quite, this one's kind of rounded. Mm-hmm. You can see how one's rounded, and this lid doesn't quite fit on here, but I think it looks better just on this side than the round one does. Let's trim some, but that one fits better.
So what do you do, make a bunch of bottoms and then make a bunch of tops and then kind of put the ones that fit together the best?
Yeah, I made like 9 of these because I was having problems. It's always good to make a few extra. So that's the harder version. Also, this is like, I think this might be, in terms of cleaning and using as kitchenware, and if you drop this, if you don't make this thick, and it's easy to make this too thin, this part, and this could get broken. Whereas on this shape, which is more like the honey pot, this just fits into like a little galley here. And this is much easier to throw, and it's just as functional. And then it just sits in there. This is easier to throw because it's just a plate. And yeah, so
it's more forgiving.
More forgiving. And this one also, if it doesn't have this little, I got a little bit of a lip in there because I got it too thin underneath it. Whereas this kind, sometimes, you know, you got to make sure it comes up straight. You get food in here, it's going to be hard to clean. So this is just, I think this is better for cooking. It's a simpler thing. And then it's the same thing with the honey pot. You know, you put a little bit of a gallery in there, and the same kind of lid on top. Trees back up. So what I'm going to do, so I'll show you how to throw those two. And I'll show you how to trim them too when we get to that. So I'm going to do
just the honey pot first?
Yeah, I'm going to do the honey pot first. So this is just, you know, straight-sided form, the basic cylinder shape. You know, and bring out the bottom as narrow as you want the base to be. That's a nice base. Well, better. Now, in this way, you need to leave a nice big bead on the top, just like with similar to with the pitcher, but you want it round. You don't want to flatten this one out like we were doing with the pitcher. And pull that up. Make sure you leave that there. And before the outside gets too thin, because when you form this galley in here, if the walls are too thin, it can get kind of wobbly. So it's better to do this when it's still fairly thick. And I usually use this finger and press it into here, and I just steady myself with these. But it's this finger here, and hold, and then it's these two fingers, the two index fingers. And this one holds underneath the bead, and this one's underneath the bead. This one's right in the middle of it, and this is the one that's going to form it. So you're going to do this and just form it like that. Just like that. And then, yeah, and then you can then keep doing a straight-sided cylinder, and don't do the forming until later. So that's probably about as high as it's going to be. And then I'll form it out on the outside. And I don't know how, I don't have, when I was a production plotter, I was looking at this old book I have, and I have like weights and measures. I have these things all figured out how big, for 1 pound of clay, this big, but you don't really have to. But if you're doing a batch of them, the best thing to do is to throw the bases first. And then you want to, when you're almost done, you can neaten this up and sharpen it so that it has a real nice curve and it's not kind of mushy in there. Tool, trim it down, and then you can go back in here and just run this over lightly to give it the shape. And I usually put in a little mark right there just to delineate it, because I like to. And then this is looking pretty good. So, with your calipers, and there's a bunch up there, is go this way and go to the top inside, oops, right there for your measurement. And then do a couple of them. And then, take this one off, and then we'll do the end one. Let's say I just did a whole series of these. One thing you can do with this too is if you pull through like this, it's kind of cool. See if I can. Leaves kind of a nice zigzag on there. Okay, so now we've done a whole series of those, because for some reason we wanted a bunch of them. I can take this to throw. We're assuming that this is a bigger lump of clay.
Bigger lump of clay for the top and the
bottom? For the tops. Well,
yeah, throw it off the hump.
Throw it off the hump is what I'm...
We're going to hump it.
We're going to hump it here. So you would want to have enough if you did like a dozen of these.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, you would want to get enough clay to throw a dozen off the hump. Okay, so when you're throwing off the hump, you're just working off that top bit. And since these are pretty small little lids, right, probably like about that much. And it's better to go, at this point it's better to go thicker than thinner, because thin is going to, it's hard to trim. Thicker you can always trim it off, or even if you have a, if somebody's going to drop it, and if they're nice and chunky, then they don't break. And then you don't have a pot like this that you think, well, what do you do with that? It's not even a good vase kind of thing. So make them substantial.
Do you wind up cutting a hole in the lid for the...
yes.
Okay, the dipper.
The dipper, yes.
Okay.
We'll do that when we trim it. So, like about that much. And I usually put my thumbs in the bottom. It's just like you're like making a very shallow bowl. And it doesn't take too much to do this. Like I'm just pulling with the top finger. I'm just bracing underneath and just pulling it out with the top finger against, and I'm holding this one really steady in that groove down in there. And pull it out, leave a little spiral. Now, what you need to do now is reverse this. You can either get another set of calipers and measure the outside, or you can come back over here, and again you want to measure the outside. And what I do is I'll measure just a little bit less down here, and it's too big. There's two things you can do. One is you can cut it off. The other is you can push it up a bit, depending on how. Okay, this is pretty good. See, it's a little bit smaller. Actually, it's right there. Probably want them to be like at least 1/8 of an inch smaller, because otherwise you can have tight fits. I did most of those were all too tight. Yeah. That's going to shrink on the top, and this is going to pop in a little bit too, and to varying degrees. With casseroles, it takes some time to get used to how different things shrink. Like those are going to shrink differently, especially if you throw that on a bat and it's stuck on the bat. It's not going to be shrinking in as much as those are, especially if you don't turn them over. I came in and turned these over because that top part is just going to really shrink in really tight. Oops, now I have too much. So you gotta play with these a little bit. That's better. See, it's a little bit smaller than the caliper. So I would go for, let's see, yeah, like maybe about that much smaller, about 1/8 of an inch. Or you could just bring in the caliper more, which is also probably the smart way to do it. But either way, you can either measure it to the outside and bring it in 1/8, or just bring it in 1/8. And cut this guy off. If you make it thick enough, then get off like that. Shall I do that again?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.